Crispin Rea. I'm running for City Council 4th District at large. Currently, I'm an assistant prosecuting attorney in Jackson County in the Special Victims Unit. I've been a prosecutor for 8 years. Actually, May 15th coming up here will be my 8-year anniversary in the office, and it's flown by. But 6 years I've been in the Special Victims Unit, so I prosecute the awful things that happen to women and children in the community. And I was born and raised in Kansas City, born and raised on the east side, not too far from here. So number one, and this is something that I've heard from voters, residents, folks across Kansas City, is public safety and crime prevention. It makes sense that we hear a lot about that right now because we just had our second deadliest year in Kansas City history. Last year we had 169 homicides. We had our third deadliest year the year before, our most deadliest year 3 years before, and I hate to say it, but we are on track this year to possibly exceed all those records, and we're not even to the summertime yet, which in Kansas City we know can be violent and deadly. And so it's not just homicides, it's also violent crimes, it's property crimes. And so we have to do more as leaders, as elected officials, as a city government. And so public safety is my top issue. I am going to fight for a public safety strategy that is evidence-based, that is comprehensive, and that it includes law enforcement as well as social service agencies, community groups, other service providers, and that's cohesive, and that a strategy that has parts that work together, and that's at the top of my list. And I'd be happy to go into a little more detail as we talk more. Second is basic city services. This is one of the most important items to voters in Kansas City municipal elections every cycle. This is the sidewalks, the streets, the potholes. I include the infrastructure needs and the basic functions of city government. These things are the bread and butter of city government, and the things that we have to make sure we do not get distracted from. It is, so on city council, I'm going to certainly make these items a budget priority when we're having tough decisions and discussions about where to allocate resources. I'm going to do everything I can to highlight the progress that we've made, but the work that we have to get done. These are the things that city residents want their local government to focus on, and so we've got to get back to those basics and stick to it. And then the third category is kind of a broader category that I'm calling opportunity. I want to make Kansas City a city of opportunity for all residents, north of the river, south of the river, and everyone in between. Opportunity in the form of meaningful employment, opportunity in the form of accessibility to affordable housing across the socioeconomic scale, opportunity for folks who want to do business and small business owners in Kansas City. I want to make Kansas City a city of opportunity so that when my 6-week-old baby is making a decision on where to pursue an education and a career, it's an easy choice for him to come back to Kansas City. I want folks to know that I have the experience that this position requires. Lived experience, educational experience, professional experience. I grew up on the city's east side, just a few minutes from where we're located right now, and experienced the blight, the crime, the disinvestment, the social issues. As a Mexican-American kid, I was exposed to all the risk factors that often determine if someone like me ended up in prison or worse. I went on to get my education, a bachelor's in political science and public administration, a master's in public administration with an emphasis on urban affairs, and then my law degree from UMKC. I've served on the Kansas City Public School Board as an elected official from 2010 to 14, have experience working at City Hall, and as I mentioned, I've been a prosecutor for the last 8 years. Despite all that experience, my dad still lives at the same house I grew up in. The bullet holes, the bullet defects are still in that house. I spend a lot of time in that neighborhood, and so I stay very close to my roots. I was raised in a blue-collar family, a union household, and I don't forget where I came from. And so when I talk about wanting to address our challenges, it's personal to me. I love my city. I love the neighborhood I grew up in. I understand that Kansas Cityans across the city are looking for folks that have experience, but that also listen and that can apply leadership. and that's what I've been doing my entire career. I want to bring the experience that I've gained and put it to work and make things safer and cleaner for all Kansas Cityans. We've got a lot of work to do, and I'm realistic about the challenges that we have. But that all said, I'm coming to work. I've been a hard worker my entire career, and all those various experiences that I listed. The city council is not the job where you go to learn on the job. That doesn't mean I have all the answers, but we do need folks who have experience in addressing our challenges in the community. So at the top of my list is reducing violent crime, both in the form of homicides, but homicides are not the only indicator. There are other types of violent crimes that occur, as well as property crimes. I want to see meaningful and substantive declines in the level of crime that's happening in this town. That is something that's not going to happen overnight. And we had some success with this in 2014 when we had a public safety strategy, and we saw a 30% reduction in homicides, and it was a 42-year low. And so we can realize declines in crime. We've just got to put the work in. That's the top of the list for me. Consistent with my priority of making sure we are providing basic city services in a fair and equitable manner is, I would like to increase the level of satisfaction that our residents have around those issues. One indicator are the citizen satisfaction surveys that every year survey thousands of Kansas Cityans about how we're doing around potholes and picking up the trash and repairing the sidewalks. I want to see those numbers go up. Anecdotally, I would like to know that folks are more satisfied with the services that we're providing. Of course, I'd like to be able to drive around town and see less trash and illegal dumping and hit fewer potholes. And so, I want to make sure we are providing a better level of service for folks around those issues. Of course, every year you're going to have folks who hit a pothole, and you're not going to be able to fix every pothole in a timely manner. But I would like Kansas Cityans to look back and say, we provided a better product from our city government on the things that are most important. And then, as I mentioned, around opportunity, I want to be able to say that we kept Kansas City an affordable place to live for folks on the lowest end of the socioeconomic scale, for middle-class families who are also feeling the squeeze of wanting to stay in Kansas City. I've got friends who have had a child, and that child means they need an extra bedroom in their home, and that means a larger home that they just can't afford in Kansas City, so they move somewhere else. And so I want to make Kansas City, keep it affordable for folks across the board. That is one of our greatest selling points to attract people outside of Kansas City, and I want to keep it that way. And so those are three of the things that I'd like to accomplish. That's an important question. I've talked to thousands of folks before I started running for office, and certainly during this last year and a half. And I have become convinced of one underlying truth, and that's that essentially we all want the same things, whether you live in the Northland, whether you live south on the river, on the east side, on the west side, or if you're Hispanic, white or black. We all want the core same things, safe and healthy neighborhoods, clean communities, a greater chance at success, which is how I would define opportunity. We all want the same things. And so, I believe if we focus on, our universal core fundamental values, we can get some things done. There are many ways that this city is divided, both culturally, physically. I think as a region, we are the 17th most fractured metropolitan area in the country, and that takes into account the river, the county lines. Certainly in Kansas City, Missouri, there are many ways that we have either divided ourselves or been divided. And so I truly believe if we focus on those core values, we can make progress. One of the significant divides we've experienced over the last couple of years is north of the river and folks south of the river. And I am concerned that we've allowed partisan politics to seep its way into our nonpartisan politics at the city level. You know, when I knock on someone's door and they ask me what my party affiliation, the first words out of my mouth are, "There's nothing partisan about filling potholes." Um, but you know, we're so polarized as a country, even in our nonpartisan system. I'm concerned that over the last couple of years we've allowed that partisan politics to get into our city politics, and when that happens, folks draw lines in the sand and divide into separate camps, and suddenly nonpartisan issues are viewed through a partisan lens. We've got to get past that, and I think we have an opportunity to elect folks to the city council, both north of the river and south of the river, that respect all of Kansas City and will be willing to work towards solutions. I believe it begins with the leadership at City Hall to set that tone. Yeah, you know, on this issue of public safety, one of my first day actions, you know, and actually, if I'm elected, you know, elections June 20th, swearing in would be in early August. I mean, these are things that I would actually spend that month focusing on before taking office. And so, you know, what I want to do is begin to have the conversations with the folks that I think are critical to a public safety strategy. So that includes folks at the police department, that includes you know, our other law enforcement offices, you know, probation office, prosecutors' offices. You know, we've got 3 counties, we've got 3 elected prosecutors. Those conversations would include criminal justice reform advocates, civil rights advocates, social service agencies, and service providers. A lot of the players that were at the table during the NOVA program in 2014, because I think that was a good example of how we could come together around the common goal of preventing crime. There are folks who are already working to provide public safety strategies, such as Casey Common Good, and a lot of folks doing that work. I want to begin having the conversations and setting the table so that we can have that comprehensive, cohesive public safety strategy and do it as soon as we possibly can. That will be an immediate goal, is to start having those conversations with folks. And honestly, I'm already having those conversations in how we do these things. That'll be, you know, a main focus, an immediate focus, and I believe it'll be timely because we will be rolling into the summertime, which historically is when we see so much of our summer violence occur. I think this is going to be a huge issue for us in the summertime unless something dramatically changes. It's going to be critical that we start having serious conversations about public safety and crime prevention. That's a day one priority. You know, there are other issues around economic development and small business development. You know, my priorities around housing. I'm going to begin having those conversations with folks as soon as we can. Solutions-oriented conversations and trying to understand everyone's perspective and find solutions.